Welcome back to the channel. My name's Aihrde, and today I'm going to be taking my review of Codex Infernum, which is the latest release from Troll Games that's been kindly sent to me by Davis Chenault. Recently I had sat down and had an interview with him, and we were just talking about, what's coming up, and he said, we've got two source books that I'd missed on Kickstarter coming out, one for angels and the angelic stuff, and one for demons and devils. And I was like, sounds interesting. So Grace has kindly sent me she hasn't asked me to review these, but she sent me copies of them, knowing full well that I really liked Castles Crusades, hearing me go on about how much I like demons, devils and angels source books. So yeah, I'm going to be recording both. Today I'm only going to look at Codex Infernum, which is based around demons, devils, load of the lore that's in there, how they first started. We've got some rules for collecting souls, which is what demons and devils like to do. Specifically, the gold standard of souls, which is managing to get the souls of a paladin. It's got the rules in here for binding, and then once we get into the bestiary, it is huge. I think it's 148 pages. Sadly, because it's not out, what I can't do for this video is have any links to TTRPG, to Troll Games, showing where you can pick it up, anything along those lines. By the time this is out, or the books are released, what I'll do is I'll drop it down in the video description so you know where to go and find it from there. So I think probably just sensible thing is let's just jump straight into the book and have a look at what's included. So here we've got the front cover of the book here with a mysterious looking, well, looks more like a fallen angel than a demon or devil. And over on the right hand side here we've got Codex Infernum, written by Stephen Chenault, and then some additional contributions here by Jason Vey. Details of who's done the cover art, editing and everything else like that. So it's all the important information from the talented people that have created this book in here. Castles Crusades, if you've never played it, I don't really want to make this about, I'll link my review at the end of this anyway, but it's in essence it's a D20 rollover system. Like, we'll just keep it at that. And here is their company logo here on the right hand side. And then we're going to get into table of contents. So it comes in 142 pages in here. So it's 146, including the sort of front and back book cover. Initially, it's going to take you through the introduction on playing these. I would say this is really a Games Master's book. It's not Raw Castle Keeper, I should say. This is not a book for players. I think players are going to find this very interesting if you want to sort of read through and have a look at the rules. But realistically, if you're a player, I think you should recommend this for your castle keeper, because you're going to have a lot of fun interacting with what's in here. So yeah, and if you do watch it, you're going to get your spoilers, and I try to make these as spoiler free as possible. So what I'm not going to do is go through all the individual demons and devils, but we will see the art. All of the creatures as well have got individual pieces of art for everything, which I deeply appreciate when you go through this. We're going to get through some infernal metaphysics, which is about the characteristics, true name, interesting stuff, and then this is the bit I was saying about the soul, possession, exorcism, transference, thaumaturgical symbols. We've got some amulets and holy symbols, holy tongues, summoning the good, which is paladins. Don't be a paladin. Well, you might want to go down here if you're a paladin, but be very careful, because huge target on your back. The characteristics, and then we've got all of these demons down here, including sort of like incubus and succubuses as well. And then we're going to get all of the named devils in here, as well as little things like little tiny imps and ice devils in here. And as you'd expect, we are going to be you're going to see some big names of people that you should recognize as we go through. And then finally, we just got the sort of the denizens at the end. Introduction. One thing to remember: devils, demons are evil. You're not playing nice people. This is not a player's guide, so this is not an opportunity for players to play these creatures. However, I think if you wanted to allow your players to do it, it's going to be a very strange campaign, but I think I wouldn't mind if people wanted to do that, capturing souls and things. But realistically, this is for games masters, castle keepers only. One thing to remember about demons and devils is what we get here is the separation between the two. So demons are agents of chaos. They dwell in madness. they're enriched, they're disconnected from the world, and they have no sort of rules, and they're completely out for themselves. Where devils, on the other hand, are slaves to law, so they dwell on the mental entropy, but they will still have their own rules and regulations, be it as twisted or evil as they will, but they will still stick to guidelines. I think Dungeons and Dragons kind of made it easier with lawful evil and chaotic evil. Is just really the way that you're going to think of devils more down the lawful evil side, demons chaotic evil, to sort of bring in those sort of archetypes. And when you are going to be using this book, it does say, well, obviously you've got to be careful of power because some of the archdemons and devils are incredibly powerful, but they are more powerful on their home planes than they are once they actually get onto the material realms and things like that. If you want more details of that, just sort of say go and pick up the Codex of Plains. And there's another reminder here about the souls of the paladin being the crown jewels of souls. Okay. The demons and devils mainly live on a world called Aihrde. I think that's how it's pronounced. And there is a Codex of Aihrde that you can buy. Whether these two will come out as reforged versions, I don't know. I have actually got an interview in with Steve and Davis in, I think it's February next year. So I probably should ask them what they're going to do with the Codex. But here we've got the background of the sort of history of Aihrde. And I'll make this brief, but because I'm going to butcher some of these names as well. So we've got, I think it's Anclea came to Aihrde, who was like the horned god. And the humans were there and, good people were there, and he decided he wanted to take it over and eradicate them. So he then went out and asked for, in essence, the demons and devils to help him. And they kind of helped him, but as time went on, the demons and devils realised they couldn't get on, and then they basically went on to this all-out war on all those planes. And this book will cover a little bit of the lands in details, but if you want a lot more than that brief sort of 30-second background history, but in essence, the demons and devils were sort of asked to come and do something. They kind of worked together, then realised they're polar opposites. Neither of them are nice. Neither of them, but they're saying that where evil people don't think of themselves as evil. They just maybe want control or whatever, the motivations that they have. But one, very lawful in what they do, other very chaotic in what they do. So it kind of they just don't seem to mix. I've got a note here on attributes. So the default attribute for most checks concerning with souls transferation is charisma. Okay, so that is the main role when you're doing anything to do with spells and things like that. They do have hierarchies, the devils and demons. So the devils will go from arch, greater, lesser to minor, and that is the sort of power structure that they have. Demons go Lord, Major, Lesser, and Minor. And when we start looking at some of the specific creatures in here, you will actually see it within their titles. True names. Nobody knows the true names of either demons or devils, because if you do, it's going to help you here with the binding ritual. And the example it gives is even Orcus. So everyone knows of him as Orcus, who is, one of the bigger demons he's even in 5e as well, isn't he? And Dungeons and Dragons world. So he's one of the, I think in this world he's the second most in charge of all the demon lords. And Orcus isn't even his real name. So that's just the name that everyone knows him by, because once you do know it, you can then do this binding ritual. And the first part of doing the binding ritual is you must know the true name. So it's going to be very difficult to get it if you ever do find it. But it's going to take you through how you then do that. And as you'd imagine, you're then going to be making some sort of charisma check against the CL difficulty increasing, and it's going to be based on the level of the demon plus 12. So it's going to be quite hard. But if you do get to bind them, you're going to get a binding coin, which is going to go into. And you're also going to have to bind and keep doing this every single round, because once they're bind, they're going to be trying to fight to escape. They're not going to, take it lying down. It talks here about the restraints of power, where every round you're going to be binding them, trying to keep hold of them. There's a good example. Troll Lord Danes do great examples in their book, and it talks here about breaking the bonds. You're going to have to keep hold of that coin and fight to actually do this. So unless you've got another way of controlling them, just binding them is going to be difficult. Now, the soul section I thought was really interesting because this is going to, it sort of represents sort of spirit, mana, any other descriptor that people may have depending on your beliefs. But your soul is going to be equal to your physical hit points, and your AC is equal to your level plus your charisma. Okay, so and that's because there are game effects and spells and things that are going to come into effect that can directly damage the soul. And the things you can do with the souls is you can possess them, you can steal them, which is quite interesting, damage the soul directly, you can drain it, you can trap the soul. But the good thing is the soul does heal at 1 hit point plus con bonus a day. It's going to take quite a while, but I like this bit on separation. Separation, having one soul's removed from the body does not kill the body, but rather it hollows it out. The body is going to have, it's going to lose 3 points of charisma and 3 points of wisdom and suffer -1 on attribute checks. So you can carry on going, you're just not going to be quite as charming. And obviously if the soul does get destroyed, that is quite bad. It's quite hard to destroy it, but if it is, you can use things like restoration as well in there. We've then got the rules on how to possess different creatures, and again, obviously the higher the level of the creature you're trying to possess, the easier it's going to be. But if you're a player character and you're trying to be possessed, don't worry, you do get to add your charisma to the save. Then we've got the rules here for sort of expelling entities, turning them, and also if you want to, it's one of the easiest ways is actually just to slay the host, and then you can get your possessed soul back. Exorcism, we've got 2 different types. You've got the simplified rules or the advanced rules. So again, if someone is possessed, you might want to just, instead of slaying the host, you might want to exorcise them out. And the simplified rules, it's just going to be an extended check against the CAL. You're just going to do a constant extended check until you achieve a certain number of successes equal to their level. And then with the advanced one, if you fail or passed, you will do sort of direct damage to them. If you succeed each individual check, if you fail it, you're going to do damage to yourself. So personally, I prefer the advanced rules because it just puts that little bit more risk in there. And then finally we get transference, which is the practitioner of thaumaturgical rituals wants to befriend the fiend or the celestial to gain some of their powers. And it will just talk you through the sort of bargaining and things like that. Yeah, we've all watched TV programs and films. You know, there's that famous, was it The Simpsons, where Bart sells his soul? This is, in essence, what transference is. And the problem with that is you can then go into, they could possess you, or, you know, it's going to be very difficult to end the pact, but there is some things that you can do involving, again, sort of game-based roles to end the pact. If you're going to have any sort of thaumaturgical symbol, if you stand in there, you're going to get +3 to your attribute to make the checks, and you can have things like holy symbols and talismans that are going to help. We've got a couple of paragraphs here on holy tongues, which very few know. It's known to paladins and a few secret sects and good celestials and things like that, but it does talk about, it does confuse and distract a demon or devil, which is going to give them a few minuses on some attributes and make things a little bit easier if you do speak to them. And then the last thing we can do is obviously summon demons, devils. So it does talk about some of the spells in here. And obviously, if you're going to be summoning via spells, so wizards, clerics, and things like that are going to have access to the thaumaturgic summoning of creatures. And game mechanic-wise, doesn't seem too difficult to summon some of them against their charisma check plus their level. So depending on the sort of level or power of the creatures you're going to be getting, it's going to be quite easy or difficult depending on what you want. But you know, once you summon them, you don't control them, they're just going to be there. And then obviously the spell would then take over to see the impact. But yeah, some really good little game mechanics in here. And then it's going to talk of the good, which we've got a sort of section here about paladins and the priests and the divine, as well as the exalted in here. So paladins, you know, they like to stand against evil, and they will like to go into the plains to show off their might. But as sort of implied earlier, they are going to be highly sought after by everything that's there. It's, you know, demons and devils, they've all got their own hierarchies, and catching a paladin, it's going to get you an awful lot of prestige. So you might not want to do that if you're a paladin. However, I suppose paladins are godly in nature, so that is part of their that's what they do, isn't it? And so we've got sort of good priests and the divine. So priests, clerics, scouts, and other good travelers enjoy certain levels of power from the evil over on the plains. Their very existence confuses the lesser denizens, such as they often balk at them. And one thing it says here that the games master, if they're over at 5th level, you can give them like a turn undead, but turn demon or devil equivalent on there as well. So before we get into the main creatures, it's going to give us details of characteristics and how they all work. So each of the creatures coming up, and if you've had the Monsters and Treasures, I think it's called, for Castles and Crusades, this should feel very familiar to you. So initially you're going to get the name. There is no, that I've seen, there is no true name of any of the creatures so far listed, but it doesn't mean that there aren't in some of the text either. Let's tell you the type they are. Most of them will refer to a monster, but this will give you the sort of effects or immunities for spells and things. Then we're going to get into what level they are, their armor class, their amount of hit points, spell resistance. I'd forgotten about spell resistance. That is just a d20, and if you've got to roll above it to get your spell off. That was I remember that back in, I'm sure it was AD&D, like 2nd edition. Don't think 3 had it. It may well have done. I think a few of the undead, there may have been a carryover, but spell resistance that excited me because it really puts you off. But it's so much better than what they did in 5th edition, where it was they ultimately failed the first couple of spells. Spell resistance is a good thing and such a sort of not old school feel, that sort of Renaissance feel. So I was quite excited to read this. They're going to get some saves. It's going to be split down into either physical, mental, or both, or none. So we've got 4 different options in here. And then we've got how far they move, the sanity rolls that you're going to get, how many attacks, that's going to be just listed as numbers, the experience you're going to get for slaying them, any sort of abilities they're going to get, any sort of traits, breakdown of dark vision, deep vision, dust vision, and how they work, the 3 different types, whether they see in black and white, a variety of immunities and resistance, weapon immunities, vulnerabilities. It's so important to me that when you're running a stat block for a creature, a good creature for me will have immunities but also have vulnerabilities. Then they might have some regeneration, and we then got special sense, tracking, twilight visions, and then finally we get the ecology, so the average number that you're going to come across with, and that might say like be a 2 to a 12, so you should be able to sort of work out which die that you can roll to go on there. We then get the size of the creature, the intelligence, which is ranging from 1 to 26, and then just use this table here. Disposition, which is how whether they're good, evil, chaotic, neutral. The climate, the sort of conditions and weather and the sort of bio places that they're going to live in, and then any form of treasure they might have with them. So initially, after this stunning piece of art here, we are going to get demons, and then we're going to get all the devils. So this is going to talk about most of the demons live on the abyss. I think I was a little bit sad that there wasn't really a map of the abyss, which is generally known to believe there are 666 known planes in the abyss, and they will have sort of the safe areas that come here, which are called oases, that seem to appear and disappear relatively quickly in here. Time doesn't change in the abyss, so you don't need to eat or sleep or anything along those lines. There's no night, there's no day, there just is, because time doesn't go on. Movement's normal. There are some encounters that you can have. Magic is more powerful, so every caster in here is going to gain 1 temporary level. Doesn't affect hit points, mind. And then we've got these storms that are sort of going to batter people as well. So yeah, it's quite interesting. There's a reminder here of the hierarchy of all the demons. So again, Lord, Major, Lesser, Minor. And then we have got the 4 sort of demon lords here: Demogorgon, Orcus, Burr, and Baal. Whether a demon is in its native planes or somewhere else will determine. So the stat blocks as given are outside the sort of planes. If they're in their native plane, they are going to get +4 AC as a major demon, and +2 for lesser and minor as well. And then there are some common traits for demons, because if they weren't powerful enough, they're all going to be able to get a dark vision, variety of immunities, so you're going to need at least a +1 magical weapon in here, unless you're going to hit them with iron, because they are vulnerable to iron. I love it. I do really like it when they sort of hit something that they're immune to. Here's something that, you know, they're going to hit you really hard with. So I'm going to, do we want to look at Aihrde, the, probably pronounced wrong, the minor demon here? Yeah, it's probably a good example here. So it's going to have all 9 saves. So we're going to 1 to 4 of them. They are either large or minor. It's got superior intelligence in here, chaotic or evil, any climate. It likes to live in the abyss. It's going to give you 10 on the treasure. We've got some abilities here, so demon traits, acid spray, things like that. So here are all the abilities. They're all listed next to the creatures as well, which is always really handy, because what you don't want to do is sort of go tracing back to the start of the book or somewhere else in the book. Other than, obviously, you know, we've got vulnerability iron, which is some of the common things. Movement is broken into feet, so we've got 20 feet on their feet. We've got 30 feet if it goes down to quadruped, and if it wants to fly, it's going to go to 60 feet in here. And then saves, it's got mental saves. That is it. So 45 hit points, AC 28. And then we're just going to go through. That's quite cool. Not quite a lord, but we're going to find it. So when we get to see, here's one of the Isabel, the one of the demon lords, which there is a 1, obviously, in here. Oh, I probably should have talked about the hierarchy quickly. When you look at the hierarchy of the demons, it does basically say their hierarchy. It's not based on competence. It's based on if you can kill the people below or above you. That's how you get promoted. You know, you want to be a demon lord, you've got to fight off all the other major lords that want to take your place. So yeah, it's quite an interesting way of doing it. So I don't want to sort of spoil anything that's in here. I just kind of want to show it off so you can kind of see how much is in here. And I like looking at you, 5e. We've still got an incubus male, succubus female, which I was kind of a little bit shocked on they've kind of merged them into one. He's my favourite, Orcus, because I've had variety of interactions with him over my sort of 35 years in the hobby from variety of different games. He's got a lot of hit points. Rightfully so, because, you know, hierarchies of violence, not competence. That's exactly how demons work. I think Vrul is Volcreed is the last one, which is this major demon. That's gigantic. So we've then got devils here. So devils are slightly different because, you know, as I said, they are lawful in their chaotic and evil ways, but they tend to live in hell, and hell is divided into the 9 realms. And I like this one because we have got a map coming up, which is really going to help me, or even you, because I say, you know, it does say go and buy the Codex Infernum, which I need to find out whether there's going to be a reforged version of it. But it's going to take you through the different 9 rounds of Helms. There are no seasons in Hell, so everything pretty much stays the same. You can travel to and from Hell if mortals can get a few ways from the outer planes. And then, it's like Dante's Inferno, wasn't it? Where I think there's a pub, or is it an inn? I think right at the start of the 9 rounds. Moves normally in there, so surviving, it's going to be hard to survive. You move at normal pace, so there's obviously a variety of encounters with devils, and magic works normally. However, magic affects the undead is twice as powerful, so you're not going to get that extra level, but you are going to be better at attacking the undead. So they're going to take you through your 9 realms. So we've got the Gates of Hell, Hell's Breath, Frozen Moat, Pendulum, the Black River, the City of Dis, the Blood Realms, Maelborg, I think that is, and then finally the Red Air. And here it's going to give you the title of the Duke and who is actually the Duke in here. So level 2, and we've got in the Gates of Hell, we have got 2 dukes. We've got Osmane and Orbus, and then go into the second realm, we've got Moloch here as well. When are we going to get the 3? Is it, I think in Dante's Inferno there was a 3-headed dog, just like in Greek mythology. But we do get the map here of the 9 realms of Hell, and you can start, so the first realms are here, and you're going to basically move across sort of east ways, if that actually makes sense, as you go across. But it's going to give you so I'd imagine we're going to get a bigger map of this in the Aihrde book. So I say they've got the map for devils. I'd like to see a map for the demons as well, but I suppose it's quite hard to map out a realm with 666 different realms. I've already answered my question why it's not in here, haven't I? See, I eventually get there. We've got some common traits for all devils. They've all got dark vision. They can all detect disposition at will. They're immune to all elements. They're immune to certain weapons, any weapon below 8+1. They can shape change, and they can speak to the undead. But they've all got vanity. So a devil's great weakness is its vanity. So it hasn't got a weakness from a physical point of view, but they do love themselves more than power, more than wealth, more than anything that will live in world or dead. So clever characters can use it to their advantage. So as we're going through, remember, arch, greater, lesser, minor. That's what we're looking at. So Aemon here is an archdevil, so he is one of the most powerful ones. Not surprising, 159 hit points, level 25. So we've got this little lesser one here. That's quite cool. Like all the little gold and things on it. So I always appreciate it when a monster manual, which in essence this is, as is Asmodeus. That is cool. Individual pieces of art always really helps a games master to sort of, not only because obviously, you know, you've got things here, the description of what they do and special abilities and things like that in here, which is how I hate spoiling these things, but you get an actual visual idea of what it's going to look like, which always helps. I got this, I did that. It's kind of cute-ish. Oh, that's gross. These are good. These are good. I do. You know, sometimes you'd just be nice if you could just have actual art books. Is that a chain devil? Yeah. Cool. Bone devils here. Greater devil. Oh, Cull, the greater devil. Oh, Elgos. Okay. I think devils are more interesting than demons. Demons are just, I think it's because it's that chaotic side to them that I don't find demons as interesting. You know, I like Orcus. But devils are just, you know, you think of, if you're unsure how to run a devil, if you've ever watched, and if you haven't, go and watch them. Films like The Wishmaster, I think there was 2,700 of those Wishmaster movies, but that really, I know it's a djinn in essence, but that kind of is the sort of feel to how you play a devil, where, you know, you get people to agree to doing stuff, but you sort of put some sort of twist on it as well. Oh, this, I didn't realise this. I missed that when I was going through this. This is classing Lilith as the archdevil. Famously the first vampire or witch from the World of Darkness Vampire the Masquerade game. So if you're new to me or my channel, I love books like this, because what I tend to do is I will use these to base campaign settings around. I'll go, okay, which one of these devils is really interesting? And then I'll pick a demon and then have them sort of playing off each other. And not necessarily the players are going to know, but it does mean you can use sort of like the lessers and, you know, the minor ones to sort of tease little bits that are going on into the world. And eventually it's the players sort of level up and you can have your main overarching demon or devil or bad guy, really. Why is that get a full page art? Who's that? Okay. Usmain, I think that's probably pronounced. Level 60. You'll have a chance on him when you're almost at that sort of level. Oh, Pit Fiends. Pit Fiends, greater devil. 1 to 4 Pit Fiends. You wouldn't want to find 4 Pit Fiends at once. That's going to be a nasty D4 roll. Just thinking at least they don't explode. Imagine if, like, exploding dice rolls in this game. You roll a D4, then you get another D4 Pit Fiends. You could just end up with loads and loads of fiends. I don't know. Well, you could see the artist at the start, but it's really good. And then we've got finally the denizens. These are creatures that dwell upon the infernal plane. They are damned, and the souls of the evil creatures who have been in the infernal planes only to find home to their ilk. Oh, so they are humans, demi-humans, and other monsters that have, well, they treaded the path with chaotic and neutral creatures, and now they are stuck there. But luckily, they're vulnerable to illusion, vulnerable to light. It's a shame, because that illusionist is a really interesting class for Castles and Crusades. Okay, so that there is my look at Codex Infernum, which is, it's got me very excited. Now, coming up, I will obviously be doing Codex Exaltum, which is the Angels. It's actually a slightly smaller book. I think it comes in 110 pages, somewhere around about there. But so these are, having good antagonists to a game, especially if you're going to run a long campaign, is really important. And because the stat blocks and the descriptors, and especially if, once you get into the sort of archdemons and stuff, sorry, the archdevils, it's going to give you an awful lot of things that you can write to. Now, it does say that you do know, those couple of codexes. I don't think you do. It would be handy to have them, but realistically, most of my interactions that you're going to be having if I run the way that I would run these, I wouldn't necessarily have people down in these realms playing with the demons. I kind of like bringing my demons and devils into the world through portals or gates or whatever it may be. And sometimes it's also nice to be able to sort of tempt the players over the line, so to speak, because this is going to really sort of teach you how to do this. And I think it's really clever, the fact that it's given souls actual hit points, because as the players go up in levels, they will become harder to corrupt. Because if the players, one thing that I always try to emphasize to all my players over all the years I've been doing this, is if you can do something to one of my creatures, my main antagonist, or even a lowly minion, we can do the same to you. So if you're going to be sort of reducing someone's soul down and trying to sort of possess people and do those sort of things, we can do that too. And that is where books like this become really, really useful. I think you can tell I don't know what happened to my voice then. I think you can tell I really like this. I'd say that it's the sort of book that if you are wanting to run high-powered, sort of world-changing antagonists, I think this is the sort of thing you need. Now, obviously, I am going to follow this up, as I said, with the Infernum book, which is going to have all the angels and the seraphim in. I don't know whether I'd end up doing a full-on campaign of doing, good versus evil, but I'm quite interested in the follow-up book as well. So if you want to see that, please do consider sharing, and especially subscribing to the channel. And yeah, that should be out in a few days too. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.